All right, I'm going to talk to someone on the right now and see if we can find some common ground. It's Matt Lewis, old friend. We used to appear on TV all the time together, debating usually. He's a journalist for the Daily Beast, and he's written the new book, Filthy Rich Politicians, the Swamp Creatures, Latte Liberals, and Ruling Class Elites Cashing In on America, and it's coming out right now. Matt, good to talk to you again.
Hey, Cenk, good to see you.
All right, so Matt, so tell me the thesis of the book, and then I'll tell you the parts I agree with and disagree with. It'll be fun.
So the premise is it's about how the rich get elected and the elected get rich. I think both are interesting and important, but the latter part of the equation is more concerning, that people who get elected tend to get richer. And I argue in the book that this is problematic if you care about conserving liberal democracy, that people believe the game is rigged. There's a perception that the game is rigged, that politicians are using their perch to feather their nest. And if you care about this country, whether you believe it's happening or not, it's very corrosive that we have this perception.
Yeah, so we start out with agreement. Is the game rigged? Yes. In fact, I might believe that even more than you do. We'll come back to that. Should we ban insider trading so that they have stop having an unfair advantage and enriching themselves? You make the argument in the book that they should. Yes, that's an easy yes, right? So we agree on that too. Look, the country's divided, but here's the left and the right agreeing. And it's not just me and Matt. The great majority of right-wing voters and left-wing voters want insider trading banned. But of course, it's not banned for people in Congress because Congress people are voting on it and they want to enrich themselves. So that's how corruption works. Yeah. Okay, now let's get
technically insider trading is banned as of 2012, but it's not really. What I want to do is ban stock trading for members of Congress, and that's really the only way to ban insider trading in Congress, actually.
Yeah, and to Matt's point, just so you guys understand the context of it, they theoretically banned it in 2012, but it's never enforced. So there's like 97 members of Congress, as Matt points out, trading on information they seem to have gotten from inside Congress. It's just an outrage, total outrage. So everyone agrees that they should be banned, except for both the politicians and the media in Washington. So that's standard fare. Matt, give me more proposals, and let's see if we can again get agreement here, or let's see where we diverge.
Okay. One thing I would do is a 10-year moratorium on lobbying. After you leave Congress, you shouldn't be able to cash in as a politician and then immediately cash in as a lobbyist. Right now, it's 1 or 2 year moratorium, depending on what chamber you're in. I would have a 10-year moratorium. I know some people want a lifetime ban. I don't know if that would hold up. I'm also now, this is an area, Cenk, where I've changed my mind since back when you and I used to spar on TV. I'm now in favor of term limits. That's something I wasn't for before. One of the issues that seems innocuous, but I do want to call everyone's attention to, are these book deals that politicians get. And Ron DeSantis, until 3 weeks ago, wasn't a millionaire. It was actually a book deal that made him a millionaire. And the part about it that is somewhat swampy or sketchy, actually, and this is not Ron DeSantis specifically, but a lot of politicians are able to get these book deals and even maybe make the New York Times bestseller list by virtue of bulk sales that a political committee or super PAC or something will just buy like 100,000 copies. And so that money ultimately will find its way into the pocket of the politician. So there's probably 10 or 15 different reforms I call for, but those are a few of the key ones.
All right, let's take it one by one. 10-year ban on lobbying. No, I agree with Matt Gaetz. It should be lifetime. And that's Matt Gaetz.
I agree with Matt Gaetz. I like that. That's going to be on my ringtone.
Yeah, believe me, it's on a lot of people's ringtones. I don't agree with Matt Gaetz on anything else, but since he stopped taking corporate PAC money, he has become uncorrupted and agrees with progressives on much stricter regulations and money in politics, including politicians being banned from lobbyists forever. I totally agree with that. So I'll chalk that up as a yes, and then some.
Well, and let me say, Cenk, I would certainly go along with that. I don't know that it's workable I don't even know if it would be held up as constitutional to ban somebody for life from lobbying. But if it was workable, I would be perfectly fine with you and Matt Gaetz having your way on that one.
Yeah, so term limits, I'm mixed on. There's good arguments for them, there's good arguments against them. Given that everyone in Congress is 200 years old, it does lean towards term limits, but I'll leave that as a middle ground, right? So the book deals, you start to lose me a little bit. So to me, like, I get it, people write books. You wrote a book, I wrote a book, politicians write books. Yeah, they get rich that way, mainly because they're famous, and they got famous by being a politician, etc. But I don't think, Matt, that's the essence of the problem. And so we can talk about the books and stuff, but Matt, you're addressing some of the causes there. And what I really wanted to get to is the consequences, I should say. Like, hey, there's corruption, and the consequences are they go become lobbyists, they go write books, all these different things, right? But the root cause, I should say, is what I want to address most, which is the fact that they're all bribed. And they call them campaign contributions, but they're super obviously bribes. They don't necessarily go directly into their pockets, but a lot of times they do, like Trump will increase rent that his campaign is paying, etc., and that'll go straight into his pocket. But most of the time it just makes them rich and famous, and then they use that to get other wealth. And to me, ending the corporate contributions is the biggest no-brainer of all time. But traditionally, conservatives have not agreed to that. So I wonder where you are these days.
Well, first I would say I do think that the desire for fame is important, and it's part of the book. And we have the attention economy, is what it's called, and so they're not just out there cashing in on the economy; they're cashing in on the attention economy, which ultimately does lead to dollars. I would agree with you about corporate contributions. I think we would very rapidly depart. I would probably go for unlimited contributions, but it has to be from an individual. It's not from PACs, it's not from corporations, and it has to be immediately disclosed and transparent. We probably philosophically disagree on that. I will say, I think some of the things in the book that you may find as sort of limitations are there because I tried very hard to write a book where the reforms I propose are, I think, achievable. And so there may be things that we would agree on, but they're probably not workable. Everything in this book, including banning stock trading of members of Congress, again, it's not easy, it hasn't happened yet. They're messing around with it, they're toying around with it, but I think it is within the realm of possibility that could happen. Overhauling our campaign finance system, even if we agreed on that, I do not see that anytime in the foreseeable future.
No, they will fight that the hardest because that's the actual source of the corruption, and they don't want that magical fountain of bribes to go away. Otherwise, everything else goes away. Their entire corrupt system collapses if you get rid of private financing of elections. That's why both Republicans and Democrats will and currently do fight against that movement 200%. The Republicans are honest about it. They say we love money in politics, we love corporations giving us cash, and we think they're human beings, which is hilarious, but at least they're honest about it. The Democrats say, oh, we are so against that, and then they love it, and they fight getting money out of politics harder than anyone does. So.
Right, and I mean, Nancy Pelosi's a prime example of this, right? This is someone who was vehemently against banning stock trading. She kind of sounded like Milton Friedman or something when someone proposed banning it, and then AOC kind of leaned on her. Pelosi changed her tune, and yet it is interesting, it doesn't get done. Everyone says they want to ban stock trading, including now Nancy Pelosi, but for whatever reason, it seems like there are poison pill amendments inserted or something. It's never good enough to actually vote for.
No, that's because she's lying. And so like mainstream media wouldn't say that if you put a gun to their heads, and don't, by the way. Okay, it's just a metaphor.
Do not do that.
Yeah, but no, they constantly assume that Republicans could be evil. Trump is definitely evil. Mitch McConnell could be evil. But Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, when they take the same amount of money and from the same exact sources oftentimes, are pure as the driven snow. They're angels and they would never let that affect them. And when they say something like, oh golly gee, I was gonna stop insider trading and I had all the votes, but oh, a technicality. They won't say, well, that's an obvious lie, like Trump's obvious lies. They'll say, well, the master legislator says it's not possible. There was nothing they could do, there was nothing they could do, which is the song that they play in Washington for Democrats and corporate media nonstop. Okay, so, but look, here's, and by the way, corporate media, which includes mainstream media and right-wing media, tell us we're completely divided and we hate each other and they drive that division. But here's Matt and I with a ton of agreement about corruption when I'm on the left and he's on the right. Okay, but let's go to disagreements then. So, okay, actually, let me make sure that we agree on some of these things. Okay. I don't think corporations are human beings. I think that's a preposterous idea. I think that they have rights that we give them, legal rights that we give them, but they do not have natural rights or constitutional rights. Do you agree with that?
Sounds good to me. And let me say, Jag, I have been watching the Young Turks more and more in about the last year. And it's partly because I watch YouTube TV now. And for whatever reason, I see you, so I've stopped. And I found a lot of agreement with what you and your co-hosts are saying. And this is not, I do not want anyone to interpret this as me saying that you have become a right winger. That is not what I'm saying. But I do think that the way that politics is sort of shaken out in the Trump era is that the whole paradigm is shifting. And there's some bad things about that, but one of the good things is I think that the issue matrix is different and we are agreeing on different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I'm not at all in the right wing and I loathe Trump and I loathe Mitch McConnell. But that doesn't mean I have to agree to lies that support Democratic politicians. So we've become so entrenched in our tribes that people think that it's perfectly normal to lie. In fact, they'll yell at us if we don't lie on behalf of either the establishment, like the Bidens and the Pelosi's, or now on behalf of like leftist ideology. Like, no, don't say things that are true. That's leads in the right-wing framing. No, it doesn't. No, the truth stands on its own. And so that's what we're trying to do. And Matt, I appreciate you saying that. So
my pleasure. And let me also say, Jack, writing this book has been a little bit eye-opening too, right? I obviously have always known that rich people tend to get elected and everyone knows this, but the process of going through and actually like documenting it, and as a person raised, I live in West Virginia now. I'm from a very conservative family in Western Maryland. My dad was a prison guard for 30 years. I was taught growing up to kind of like believe the system, and the more you look into it, it's like, wow, you kind of have to be rich to get elected. And I'm not saying that I was told the opposite, but I think that the effect of money in politics was probably downplayed throughout most of my life. So even at my age, I'm sort of learning. I mean, if you ever stop learning, I guess it's all over, right?
Yeah, 100%. Look, we all learn. We all learn. I hope we do, as long as you have an open mind. And one of the things I'm rebelling against is the closed minds. So people will say to us like, don't platform Matt Gaetz. And if you tell me that you agree with Matt Gaetz or Matt Gaetz agrees with you on any issue, then you're by definition wrong. That doesn't make any sense at all, right? I disagree with Matt Gaetz on 98% of issues, but if he comes over to our side and says, end the corrupt practice of politicians becoming lobbyists and getting paid millions of dollars to sell people out, why wouldn't I take yes for an answer? And that's part of what's wrong with our dialogue in all parts of the media these days. Okay, but one more thing related to the corruption, Matt. So you said the individual donations you would allow and you would allow it to the maximum. But how do you draw the line? So a great example is Sheldon Adelson. So he gave over $250 million to the Republicans over 3 election cycles. And to Trump, he gave over $100 million directly and through the PACs, both in 2016 and 2020. But he is the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, right? That's his corporation, and he's one of the richest people in the world, and it's because of the company that he runs. So doesn't it seem absurd to allow Adelson or Koch brothers or Soros or anyone else to give $100 million to a politician? They're clearly buying them.
Yeah, I mean, it is absurd. I just don't know how to fix it. My worldview is, we live in a fallen world. We can, and we have human nature. We cannot, in attempts to regulate things. For example, I would argue that McCain-Feingold, which I think was probably a noble attempt to reform the system and take some money out of politics, actually had unintended consequences that probably made things worse. Like one of those unintended consequences was removing the power that political parties had in terms of vetting candidates. And so you end up with a Donald Trump as president and a political party, a Republican Party that's essentially neutered, that has no control over the vetting process. And so, yeah, do I like the fact that some rich guy can essentially pour in $1 million or whatever it takes to try to elect somebody? I don't love that. I just don't know how you stop it. I mean, I guess some people believe in like public financing of campaigns, different things like that. I mean, I'm not there yet, but and I guess I would say I'm very concerned about unintended consequences of nice sounding ideas. This book, Filthy Rich Politicians, I should say, does not go into campaign finance. It doesn't really go into campaign money. It goes into politicians, why the rich politicians are able to get elected, and why once elected, they use their position to personally benefit themselves and to personally get richer, and then spread the money around to their friends and family. And then even after they leave Congress, to continue raking in money from things like lobbying. That's really my focus. So I guess I skirted what some people, and the other point I would make it, and then I'll shut up, is I think there've already been a lot of books written kind of about dark money and campaign finance. So this was a little different.
I hear you. And look, I think the solution is end all private financing of elections. If you privately finance elections, they will work for private interests. It's super obvious. If ExxonMobil gives them the money, they're working for ExxonMobil. If Sheldon Adelson gives them the money, they're working for Sheldon Adelson. And that's true of Republicans, Democrats, Martians, it doesn't matter. They're gonna work for the people who pay them. But Matt is right, it is extraordinarily difficult because the only way you can get that down is a constitutional amendment. And Wolfpack is a group I founded that's working on that, wolf-pack.com, you can go join them. And by the way, in the beginning, the Republicans fought us the hardest. Now it is Democrats that are fighting us the hardest because Nancy Pelosi has said and told state legislators, no, we're against the convention. That could create real change, and we don't want real change. Yeah, if you took $1 billion in bribes, you wouldn't want real change either. And if you're a Democrat and that hurts your feelings, sad day for you. Both Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi have brought in $1 billion to both of those parties, and the companies that gave them that $1 billion didn't do it for their health or for the general welfare. They did it to bribe Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi. And also true of Chuck Schumer and just about any Republican and almost all the Democrats as well. So that's the sick system we live in, and corporate media then goes and covers up those crimes. But Matt's written a book exposing some of those crimes. So check out Filthy Rich Politicians. And Matt, great to have you back on and a real conversation, an honest conversation. I appreciate it, brother.
Hey, thank you, Jack. Anytime, man. I appreciate it.